So today we're going to be talking exclusively about BathOut 2, which is a quite exciting research study that's being done from University of Newcastle, and I'll introduce Philip Whitehead in a few moments, who's the lead researcher, who will introduce what it's all about, why we've asked you to join us this afternoon. And basically we're looking for more local authorities to take part. So you will hear from 3 of the existing local authority partners who are already taking part, and we'll hopefully give you some good reasons why you should get involved too. So to give you the background on what's involved, I will hand over to Philip.
It's really lovely to be here, and it's great to see you all. And hopefully some of you will have heard about BathOut already, but the purpose of this session is to give you a bit more detail, and like Paul says, for you to hear from the people who are actually taking part in the local authorities themselves. I'm an occupational therapist by trade, and all of my practice was within adult social care, and that's I then came into research, and that's kind of how BathOut was born. So the purpose of today is that we need your help. We do urgently need more sites. We're going slower than we thought we were going, and we need to speed things up a bit in order to reach our recruitment target. So we're hoping that that's why you've turned up today, to hear more about it with a view to taking part. So hopefully we can dispel some of the myths. So the people you'll hear from today are myself. I'm Philip Whitehead, and I'm the chief investigator for the study, and I work at Newcastle University. They take overall responsibility for the study. They're the legal sponsor. And then you'll hear from Sandra and Maxine at Nottingham, Diane at Greenwich, and Spencer and Sharon at Brent. They're 3 of our 5 sites, and we're going to save the majority of the time for them and then for your questions and answers. So what are we trying to do with the study? The study is aiming to gather evidence of the effectiveness and the cost effectiveness of housing adaptations. So I know that we all know anecdotally and really strongly, and from our day-to-day practice, that these adaptations are really have huge benefits across a range of different outcomes. But we do actually have quite low scientific evidence, and we do need that to sort of influence the policy in the way that we want to. So we're trying to gather this evidence across a range of health and social care outcomes. We're also doing a cost effectiveness study where we look at what's called cost utility, but we also are gathering a range of information about the services that the participants are using. So we hope to be able to demonstrate this sort of spend to save of adaptations, spending earlier on them, preventing use of other services. And we're also looking at the processes and practices. So it's a really big study across all of these different areas. And our ultimate aim is that we will gather this high quality evidence that will be able to influence policy and hopefully ensure the continued and increased funding for adaptations. That's our agenda. So this is a really brief snapshot of what happens to people in the study. We take a baseline assessment where we collect a range of outcomes. We do that here from the university, and my colleague Lee, who's on the call, does those telephone calls with the participants where we gather that data from them. We then randomly allocate the participants to the usual care, and we're working with authorities where there is a wait of at least 4 months for their housing adaptations, so 4 months or more, or we allocate them to an expedited process where they're speeded up and then they get it quicker. And then we follow up the participants 2 to 4 times, depending on the timescales, and we collect the same data from them again. So in our expedited group, we compare adaptation versus no adaptation, and then fast versus slow. So we'll have a range of data which will say what's the effect of adaptations and what's the effect of fast versus slow. That's in a nutshell what the study is doing. So BathOut 2 follows on from BathOut 1. We did a pilot study in one authority where we had 60 people, 30 in each group, and they were randomized in the same way to a quicker or a usual care. And at that time, the usual care was 3 to 4 months for their adaptations to be installed. So if you're looking at the graph here, the green line is the group that was speeded up, and the orange line is the group that were waiting. And this is our measure of physical functioning, physical component summary. So it's how physically well they are, if you like. And you can see increases in both groups after the adaptations were installed, but this slight worsening in the control group during the time that they're waiting. And you can see on the clipboard all of the other things that we measured, and it was the same story for all of these things. We saw improvements, and on some outcomes, really large improvements in both groups after they'd had their adaptations, and we saw a flatlining or worsening in the control group during the time that they're waiting. And what we're aiming to do with this study is to replicate that on a bigger scale, so we can definitely say housing adaptations buy you this much physical well-being, this much mental well-being, this much quality of life, etc. So it will be a really influential study. And you can see the arrow there, that's showing the difference between the two groups at that first follow-up point. So that's the difference in your adaptations in physical well-being. So BathOut 2, like I say, is on a bigger scale, and we're aiming to recruit 360 participants, and we're over a third of the way through that now. We've got 5 sites that have signed up. One's just starting, the other 4 have been going for some time, but we are looking for more. So what we need and what we'll offer, we're looking for sites where there is a wait of around 4 months or longer, and where there is a possibility of speeding things up. And we're doing it slightly differently in each authority because of the issues and why things take time. And we'll talk to you separately about how we'll do this. But we do have some additional resource for the additional time commitment in dealing with those rapid adaptations. So we don't do those adaptations at the university. We still ask you to do them within your service, but we give you some additional resource for the staff time to do that. And we would talk to you kind of separately about how that would work. And we're open to, ideas on how you think that would work. We're aiming that the study will be continuing for another 18 months maximum. So it would be a sort of 12-month to 18-month commitment. But the more sites that we get, obviously, hopefully we would reach our recruitment target sooner, so that we would have a shorter recruitment target. So the more authorities that sign up, the less length of time we'll be going. So what we ask you to do is make initial contacts with people who are eligible for the study, and that's people who are age 65 and over, level easy access shower only, so bathing adaptations only, and we do the rest from there. We do also give you some additional resource for that time that you spend approaching the potential participants. And then apart from the speeded up or usual care, everything else is done by the university. We collect the data from the participants and manage all of their consent and all of that process. So the next step would be, if you were interested at all, would be to join us for get in touch with us for an initial chat. You can talk to any of us. Pop the next slide. So myself, I'm Philip, the lead investigator. Lee and Jennifer are researchers that also work on the study, and Rachel at Foundations is also a co-investigator. So you can get in touch with any of us if you want to have an initial conversation about it. But I'm very happy for you to come and talk to me, and for us to see if there is a way that we can make it work in your authority, and if there isn't, no pressure. I think that's all of my slides. So
okay, thank you, Phil. In terms of the research, so it's, if I understand it right, it's a randomized controlled trial. So,
yep.
So can you kind of talk to us about the kind of hierarchy of types of evidence and kind of where this sits within that, kind of compared to other studies?
Yeah, I can do. in terms of the medical hierarchy of evidence, it sits at the, we see that as a pyramid, and it's right at the top of the pyramid in the highest level of evidence. So we tend to think of it in terms of drug trials. When they bring a new drug out and people get randomly allocated to have the new drug versus a placebo or an alternative, and nobody knows which drug they're having, and then we monitor them over a period of time, and that's how we demonstrate a drug is effective. We're aiming to do similarly with the with bathing adaptations, in that we randomize people to have it, and that reduces a certain number of biases in the research design, and then the data is collected from both groups of people at the same time. So again, and the researcher Lee, who collects the data, he doesn't know whether people were randomized to have the adaptation speeded up or not. So again, that gets rid of some of the biases. So this is the highest level of evidence that we can get, and that's why the study is so important. So yeah, have I said enough there?
I think so. I think kind of apart from one small study in New Zealand, I'm not aware of any other randomized control trials around adaptations. So this would be almost unique, wouldn't it, in terms of that kind of upper level of evidence?
Yeah, it is absolutely. You're right, Paul. Often it's very hard to take adaptations out from other services. So there are studies which have looked at adaptations as part of a whole suite of things. The only other trial, randomized trial that we know of was in New Zealand, but that was minor adaptations. So as far as we're aware, this is the first trial worldwide of major adaptations on their own.
Yes, and I think kind of, yes, can you say it's specifically around showers as well, isn't it? So it will, and showers are by far the most common adaptation that DFG funds. So it doesn't kind of get mixed up with stair lifts or ramps or anything else, which may have different impacts.
Yeah, that's true. So we're aiming to isolate the effect of the bathing adaptation specifically, and then we would aim to use the results to be able, we would be able to imply the effects across other adaptations as well. But isolating it just to the bathing adaptations mean that we have the best chance to see the effect if there is one. What I would say about the BathOut 1 results as well is that we had some quite large increases, particularly in quality of life. And in terms of some of the other interventions that we deliver across health and social care, we spend an awful lot of time and an awful lot of money, and we get quite small increases in quality of life. And what we saw in BathOut 1 were actually quite large. So if we are able to replicate them, that's, again, when we compare across interventions, we can say that housing adaptations do actually, you get a lot of bang for your buck in terms of what they buy you in the effect in those outcomes. So if we can replicate that in BathOut too.
Yeah, and I think kind of from a policy perspective, if it gets those sort of results, then that's got to be influential with the Department of Health and the Department of Levelling Up for future DFG allocations. So yeah, there's definitely a benefit, I suppose, nationally from getting involved with this. In terms of the 4-month waiting time, I think that's kind of for the technical or housing aspect of the work, isn't it? So it's kind of post OT assessment.
It is, and that's because we generally don't know, obviously, what the outcome of that OT assessment will be till it's happened. So in order to try and keep it as neat as possible, we at the minute work with sites where it kind of comes after that assessment, although it's just slightly vary, but we can have some conversations about that. But we're particularly looking for where that wait is within the housing adaptation service.
Great. So we've got I'll put those email addresses up again a little bit later for anybody who wants to get further information and get involved. But we've got a number of people from local authorities who are already partners as part of BathOut 2. So we'll speak to them one at a time, and then if you've got particular questions, we can pick those up either from Philip, the rest of the BathOut team, or one of the local authorities. So if we start by going to Greenwich and Diane, who's been working on this for a little while. So can you give us an overview of your experiences so far, Diane?
Yes, hello everybody. Hi, my name's Diane Gladstone and I manage the Disability and Home Improvement team at Royal Greenwich. And I very first heard about BathOut at one of the Foundation's webinars before Christmas last year, and felt it was something that Greenwich would be interested in taking part in, largely because we are a local authority delivering adaptations to our own tenants and to DFG applicants. So we're delivering adaptations across all tenures in our borough. And as a local authority with a fairly reasonable waiting list at the moment, we really welcome the opportunity to have a look at, really get involved in some national research to see actually what impact does it have on people if they are waiting for their adaptations versus people who are having their adaptations delivered more quickly. This is a national research study that provides data that we think could support in helping us with things like future funding and policy decisions. As I think Paul and Philip said earlier, there's not much out there, not much empirical, this kind of empirical, research that's done on the work that we do as local authorities. And this is very specifically about us and what we do. So we felt that, the difference between having an adaptation delivered quickly and having it delivered later down the line was significant. We also like the fact that this study is not only looking at the financial side of the benefits of earlier interventions and providing adaptations early, but it's also looking at the kind of softer side of it too, the social care outcomes, what it actually means to people's health and well-being. Because again, it provides grist to our mills, I think, as local authority workers, when we're trying to constantly argue about resources and funding and support for the work we do. I think this presents an opportunity to have some of that actually in writing. The other thing that we liked about it was that it has ethical approval. So there's nothing about it that is of concern in terms of the ethics of the study. It is based on that kind of NHS medical research. So there's nothing for local authorities to worry about in terms of is it fair or is it unfair. That's all been sorted out for us. All we need to do is join in. The other thing, cynically, that I quite liked is the fact that we have the potential to get 30 of our clients off our waiting list fast-tracked, the delivery of a level access shower at no extra cost or inconvenience to the local authority. So the opportunity to get some of our clients accelerated isn't something that passed me by. It was an attraction. And the thing is, there is no real disadvantage in any way, because the clients that are fast-tracked, there is some extra resource that the university can help out with to ensure that you're not fast-tracking those clients to the detriment of other people on your waiting lists. So that was a positive for us too. And we started having our conversations with Philip sort of around January, February time, and we actually started implementing, if you like, the BathOut study in Greenwich towards the end of May. There is a process to go through. There is an agreement that you need to sign up with the university, etc. But what I will say is the university provide a huge amount of support and help. There's nothing really for you to worry about in terms of all the forms. They've done all that for us. They've done the paperwork. They've got the agreements ready. They do properly support and provide all the help that you need. All the training is provided for staff. You're allowed. There were lots of Teams meetings and the opportunity to ask lots and lots of questions, so everybody can be involved. And I think that to me is a real strength as well. Nobody felt left out on a limb or felt that we didn't know what we needed to do and when we needed to do it. There was no such thing as a stupid question. I mean, there was a lot of support and help provided all the way from when we very first started speaking to Philip until when we started implementing BathOut. And now during the process of BathOut, we're still in regular communication with the universities, and the people there are very, very supportive and helpful. Welcome any suggestions that you have about how things could be improved, how they could be made better, how they could be made easier, which is obviously something we all vote for in local government at the moment. We all want things to be a bit quicker and a bit easier for us to do, and they do listen to that. So I think that's really helpful. I mean, it is extra work for the team. There is some commitment you need to take on. I can't pretend that this all happens without extra work being done by people in the team. The piece of work that we've been spent most time on so far, having, now we're 5 months into the process, I would say, is around the contacting clients. The script's provided, it's made very easy for us to do that, but there is that, you ring up and there's nobody answers the phone and you have to wait for them to call back and that kind of thing. There is a little bit of toing and froing with that. You can't make an omelette routine, really, isn't it? So there is some commitment that you have to make as a local authority to this process. But for the reasons I gave at the beginning as to why we decided to take part in the study, I think the benefits, as I perceive them to be in future, as we perceive them to be in future, outweigh the costs of being involved in this project. So how we do it, the housing improvement officers in our DFG team are the ones who make the phone calls to the clients. They do it on a rota. I think they do it about once in every 4 or 5 weeks, and it probably does take up about a morning of time to make the contacts of the clients, fill in the bits and pieces of paperwork, and send them off to the university. In the background as well, it's been quite useful actually, because I think it's improved our visibility of what's coming in through the front door. How many adaptations do we have coming in that are just level access showers? So I think from my perspective, it's been really useful at focusing in on what actually is coming in through our front door, what adaptations are we mostly delivering. So I think it's raised some visibility about the kinds of work we do. To date, we've contacted about 43 people, and of those 43, 23 of them have actually been referred on to the university. That sounds like 13 people said no, they didn't want to take part in the study, and there are 7 people, which surprisingly, given we've only just got the referral for the adaptation, we can't reach. So that's been interesting for us too, and has made us think about the way we contact clients and how we get hold of people. So there's lots of other kind of strands that this has drawn to our attention as well around our client group and how we reach out to them. Moving forwards, we are in the process now of kind of nearly 6 months in, taking stock, having a look at who's been referred over, which cases we've had referred back for acceleration, where they all are, and what the university has suggested, what Newcastle has just suggested to us is that we have some coffee mornings, ideas with people in the team who are doing work on BathOut, so that we can exchange our ideas and our experiences of how we think things might be able to be simplified or made a bit easier, given our knowledge of the client group. And as I say, Newcastle and York are really good at listening, and not just good at listening, they're really good at implementing any suggestions you have for improvements or differences in the way things can work. So I suppose to end, I would strongly urge that you reach out to Philip and have a chat. They're very helpful and supportive, and the more of you that join in with that study, the quicker the study will conclude, and the sooner we'll have some data, I think some really useful data that gives us some ideas about what the difference the work we do really makes. In Greenwich, I would say nearly all, about 80%, perhaps more, of our adaptations involve a level access shower. If we're building an extension, a level access shower is going in it. If we're doing a stair lift, we're quite often then putting a level access shower in the first floor bathroom. This study is about just level access showers on its own, but as Philip said, there's an implied, you can imply some of the things that we learn about the importance of delivering showers to these other adaptations as well. So I think this really is about what we do as local authorities, and I think this really could be useful to have some research, some proper backed research to support our future endeavours to get more resources and to have the correct value attributed to the work that our teams do.
Great, thank you, Diane. Just one question I was kind of interested in. Having kind of spent 25 years in local government, sometimes it's quite a risk-averse place.
Yeah.
Did you get kind of any pushback from senior managers or members? Did you have to kind of convince anybody to let you take part?
Well, I think I'm quite lucky at Greenwich because my head of service thought it was a great idea and something we should be involved with, and our director of housing also thought it was great. He could see no reason why we wouldn't take part. Obviously, his concern when I did have to take it to our management board, but his concern was to make sure that it was properly, ethically backed, which it is, so that it had the right ratification in terms of the ethics of it, and that none of our existing clients would be disadvantaged because of this work that we're doing. And once he was reassured on those grounds, I've had a lot of support, really. It didn't need to go to members, it was a director decision in Greenwich. So I had no kickback at all from senior leadership team. They were very supportive and could see it as a positive. The team, there's some apprehension, I have to be honest, there's some apprehension in the team about what it would mean. We're all so busy now. Local, we are all very busy, and I'm sure that applies to everybody on the call today. We're all concerned about resources. We're concerned about delivering our adaptations and getting our stuff out there for clients. We don't want anything to kind of distract us or stop us from delivering the most we can. However, sometimes we do need to sort of, in a way, this could be regarded as an invest to save piece as well, because if we don't stop and look at what we're doing and support with things like this, then nothing ever changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Dawn. I'm sure we will come back with some more questions in a few moments. So also on the call, we've got Brent. So we've got Spencer and Sharon from Brent. I think you're on the same link.
No, we should be here. Hello. Yeah.
Wow, that was good. That was good. So, how are things going in Brent with BathOut? How did you get involved, and how things are going for you?
Yeah, I mean, pretty similar for us, to be honest, as with Diane. I think they approached us around getting involved in the BathOut 2 projects, and from my perspective, we've done quite a bit of other research within the council around the adaptations we provide around health and well-being outcomes as a consequence of adaptations. But despite trying, we've never really been able to quantify the financial benefits of carrying out adaptations. We know there must be cost savings as a consequence of doing it, whether it be within adult social care or the NHS, but never really been able to quantify it. And we've kind of found that, particularly going into more, times when money's a bit tighter, trying to make a case for additional capital funding to carry out adaptations is becoming more difficult. So if we can kind of illustrate the fact that as a consequence of spending £10,000 on the DFG, there are £20,000 of savings elsewhere, will be beneficial to us. So that's really why we've been involved. We've been always a progressive organisation, want to get involved in these sorts of researches anyway, just to know, how the services are that we're providing are going down with our customers. So that's why we get involved. Sharon's my grants manager. She manages my adaptation service. So maybe she can give us a bit more of an idea of how it's working on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, hi. So I do, I suppose, the operational side of it and organising it. So we met with Philip and the team, and we everyone had training, and then we just had to then decide how we were going to incorporate it into the service within our current workload. As Diane says, we are busy. We are very busy, and something that new comes along, we tend to resist a little bit sometimes. But what we've basically done is that we do have a team of 3 officers that are dedicated to dealing with BathOut 2. And I suppose those officers will be in a more support role. They'd have the more day-to-day of ringing people up. The way it works for us in Brent is that we do it on a weekly basis. So we have a very good database which records all of our referrals as they come in, and we print a list every week. One officer is dedicated to that task each week, so it's not all 3, but they do it on a rota, so they're not doing it, so they alternate their weeks. They only have to call customers that are having a level access shower, so although you could have numerous referrals, it's only level access shower and only in the target age group, so that's okay. We record on our database customers that are randomised for the fast track, so the people that we need to speed the process up, we do record that on the system, and the same officers will do that. They'll record it so the surveyor is able to see when it's allocated, we're able to know, right, we have to jump on this. The surveyors do prioritise the accelerated cases. It's important that they are aware that it's accelerated so they don't get lost within the normal ones that we do, but they do tend to prioritise them and put them all through quite quickly. As the study develops, there's more updates. That's what we're noticing now. So in the very beginning of the study, it was really just calling the people that are in that eligible category, running through the script with them, which I think the officers know now off by heart. They've managed to sort of like, you know, I suppose just adapt it now to give their own script as well. So they call them, they just complete the forms, consent to contact. We receive a link the following day, so we've targeted it. So we're doing our calls on a Monday. The Tuesday we receive the link, all of the paperwork sent off to the uni. As it develops, so we have noticed that we are having to update the spreadsheet. So we're now having to put start and completion dates of showers. It's really important that we keep on top of that, and we're recording that on a regular basis. So luckily we do update the spreadsheet every week. It means that we're able to provide up-to-date information and not wait, you know, a little bit of time for that. And also if people pull out, we are having to update. But as Diane mentioned, we get an awful lot of support. So that's really good. We get a lot of support. We know that it's either at the end of a phone or email or whatever, we can contact somebody in the uni and they can come and let us know, just make sure we're doing things correctly. The experience has been on the whole, so I was going to say one of the big things is commitment. I suppose it is, you know, if you are going to undertake or take part in it, you have to be prepared for that commitment because it will be 12 to 18 months of working. So you've got to have a proper process in place and be prepared for that, that time period. On the whole, it's been a positive experience. I wouldn't say the team were enjoying it, but we started in December 21. So it's part of our weekly, it's part of what we do. So I'm not going to say, oh, they're all enthused about it, but there's no resistance in terms from them. You know, they accept that it is part of what we do. They understand what the study is about. They can see the value in it and they're properly invested in doing it. So there's no sort of like, oh, you know, we're not very keen on that. They're all, as I said, just used to doing that now. I suppose the only real challenge, I suppose, would be incorporating it into what you normally do routinely. But as long as if you lay out the process and you have a proper process in place, and the officers that are carrying out the work take ownership for what they're doing, because it does, you know, I mean, they have to be committed, they have to take ownership, they have to be responsible for updating and making sure everything's updated, and it will work really well. And we found that it does work really well within our team as well.
Great, thanks, Chef, and thanks, Spencer. Kind of thinking back to when you kind of first heard about it, did you have any kind of disincentives to join, or were you kind of up for it straight away?
Not at all, no. I mean, we were really keen to get involved straight, you know, as soon as we heard about it, because we'd actually done some, as I said, some research, almost just ended as Philip had contacted us around health and wellbeing benefits and some other benefits of adaptation. So this kind of dovetailed nicely into that piece of research in actual fact. And it was, you know, we'd been struggling to try and work out how we could, you know, work out cost benefits. So really no resistance at all, and we've had no resistance at director level either. Everyone's very keen that we've done this. I think from our perspective, the only problems have been working within a local authority and the bureaucracy of having to get service level agreements and contracts agreed between us and the university, and us going to our legal team to kind of sort those sorts of things out, which, it's like pulling teeth. It can take a while, but once you've got over those hurdles, it's not too bad. But no resistance here at all, Paul.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. No, I don't miss meetings with local authority legal teams at all.
No.
Is there anything that's kind of been different to what you expected at the start? Kind of any key things that you've learned as you've gone through the last year or so? Well, last 2 years now, isn't it?
No, yeah, well, coming up to a year that we start. So we've been in contact for longer than that, but we actually started. We went live, I suppose, for want of a better word, last December. Yeah. So no, not really. I mean, as I said, the only thing would be as it progresses, you do have to make sure that the screening log is updated. But I think, as I said, if you have a proper process in place and everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing, from the surveyor's perspective, there's no really, I mean, they're not doing anything any differently. They're still doing the same, work. They're not doing it any differently. It's just that we're doing it more quickly. And from the officer's point of view, they're calling customers. Well, we're familiar with calling customers. They call customers to complete satisfaction surveys anyway. And as Spencer mentioned, the other project we did, we were calling to get feedback on their benefits, the benefits of the adaptations as well. So that's a regular part of what they do. So for us, it's not really probably why we haven't really met any resistance from officers, because this is part of what we do. It's incorporated into weekly. Everyone knows what they're supposed to do and when. And we're quite lucky, I suppose, because we do receive an awful lot of referrals, but it's just gone very smoothly for us.
Great.
Yeah, we're process driven anyway, Paul. So we have ISO 9001 2015 accreditation for our adaptation service. So really it was just a case of rewriting a process on the way that we administered these adaptations. It's not any more onerous for staff. It's just that customers kind of just miss out those gaps where they might be ordinarily waiting around for resources to become available, really. So yeah, it's it's not
great.
Yeah.
Great.
I think the only time that got a bit nervous with us was when our waiting lists were coming down considerably. But
Yes. I guess if you haven't got the two groups to compare between, it makes it a bit more difficult. But in some ways, that's a nice problem to have, isn't it? So thank you both. We'll come back in a few minutes if we've got any further questions. So we've heard from London. So to finish off our trio of local authorities, we've got Sandra and Maxine from Nottingham.
Hello.
Oh, hello. There we go.
Sorry. Hello, I'm Maxine.
Great. Thank you both for joining us. So what's your experience been at BathOut 2 so far?
I can't see myself. I don't know whether anybody else can see me or whether anybody can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I don't mind being the invisible person. We took part in BathOut 1, so we were a little bit more prepared, familiar with the whole process. There was no resistance to taking part in BathOut 2. The only thing is, like with everybody else, as mentioned, there was a lot of pressure on our time because of coming out of the pandemic and lengthening waiting lists and lots of things that we needed to catch up on. But despite that, everybody was willing to take part because we understand how important this research is. With regards to the paperwork side of things, I do understand that some people may be a little bit nervous about the signing up to it and how their authorities and the amount of paperwork that is involved. But to be fair, you really don't need to do anything. Everything has been done to you by the university. Done for you by the university. It's just a case of getting your leadership teams to sign off on it. We were lucky in Nottingham because we were part of the first pilot group. There was absolutely no resistance to it, but our legal did want to have a look at it. All about protecting ourselves, so they had a look at the documents. So they took a little bit of a while to get signed up to, but once it was done, it's been fine. With regards to people's concerns about time, I mean, when we came out of the pandemic, during the pandemic, we were in quite a crisis where we were with regards to the number of people that we had, staff that we had, managers leaving, all those kinds of things. So there was a lot of pressures for us, and it would have been easy to say, no, we don't want to take part in it. But we felt it was so important that we just grit our teeth and stick with it. Once you're in the research project, it isn't that onerous. You've got your scripts that people will, you know, members of the team will phone the citizens up. We've got that past knowledge from the previous research project. So it is a little bit easier for us, I suppose. But it is, like everybody said, it's about a commitment of time. You've got to, if you're going to take part in it, do allocate the time to be able to do it. It is a matter of, and Maxine will contest this, it should only be about half a morning a week that one person, we've got a team of 3 that manage the calls. There's one thing that we do differently with regards to the participants in the trial is that it's one person that deals with the accelerated and the control group. So one person that's dealing with all of those referrals and organising the work, and that I think for me just means that it doesn't get lost in other work because it's that person's work.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. I would agree. You definitely have to be committed, and yeah, it is one person that commits to taking on the number of maybe candidates that are eligible for that week. And yeah, I would agree with Sandra where she says that there is very much, you've got to commit to that half a day to try and get through the numbers, however numbers you've got to contact, because there's always those that you can't contact who are more than likely, somebody will get back to you, or some of them will get back to you. So you make sure that you've got the list on hold, if you like, knowing that somebody will contact the team again to say, well, yes, we are interested, because there are, if it's not just the citizen themselves that you're able to communicate with, then there are members of the families or somebody that you can contact on their behalf. So you do find that you do get callbacks.
Great. Thank you both. If I'll remove the spotlight from you now, so you can relax. So it's for adult services only. So and specifically for people aged over 65. It's for England. It could be council or other properties. So range of tenures can be included. It's just for level access showers. It's for local authorities who have a waiting list for the kind of housing stroke kind of technical element of a DFG process. All the ethics have been taken care of. Potentially housing associations could get involved for adaptations to their properties. So speak to Philip and Jen if you'd like to discuss that. And there is a qualitative aspect as well as the numbers. So there's lots of interviews being done with the people who take part to find out how it's benefited them and kind of the impact it's had. Is there anything else from kind of you, Philip, having kind of listened to feedback from the three local authorities, or any, or kind of Jen or Rachel or Lee that you want to add to what you've heard?
I mean, I think the thing that I would come back on is we are in quite a difficult situation. We haven't recruited as fast as we thought we were going to do, but I think we've all heard about the pressures on the local authorities, so things have moved more slowly in response to the pandemic. So there is a possibility that the study will not continue to reach its recruitment target as planned, and that would be such a shame given the work that's gone into it and the commitment from the sites that we've got already. So we really, really do need other authorities to get involved, and that will ensure that the study reaches its conclusion and all of the data that we've got will be able to be analysed as planned. And we won't hold anyone to anything. We're quite happy to just have that conversation with you initially. How can it work? How could it work? And to explore that. And then if you know, obviously it's down to the authorities themselves whether or not they think it's a goer or not. But yeah, more than happy to have a chat.
So there's kind of 100 and odd people in the webinar today. So perhaps if you're interested, maybe you can just type interested in the chats, just to kind of give us a flavour of whether what you've heard today is of interest to you. From kind of the three local authorities, so it's kind of Greenwich and Nottingham, you've kind of heard each other speak. Was there anything that stuck out for you as interesting from what the others have said of their experiences?
No, I think from our perspective and listening to the other two authorities, you know, it's a pretty standard process that's been developed by the university and Philip's team. So, you know, he wants to have that consistent approach, irrespective of which authority is delivering it. I mean, I think the only thing that I would say is that Sharon will put our telephone details into the chat. So if there are any authorities out there that want to have a quick talk to us about our experience on a one-to-one basis, then by all means, they're welcome to give us a call.
Great. And I presume kind of Diane and
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, happy to speak to them.
Happy to talk to anybody about it. Happy to have a chat over Teams or any kind of, you know, happy to have any kind of conversation about BathOut. That's fine.
Great. So let me share the screen again so that those are the email addresses you need. So if you're interested in taking part, email one of those. Those on screen a minute so you can take them down. And if you forget those afterwards, if you just email the normal info@foundations.uk.com email address, we will pass those on. Or if you message us via the website or social media, or however you usually get in touch, then we will pass those messages on. And as kind of Philip said, really looking for more people to take part. So if today has been of interest, I think you can see that it's been relatively straightforward for the three local authorities you've heard from to get involved, and they're all very kind of keen and excited to see the results from it. And you too could be part of this kind of exciting new research and new evidence, I guess, that both at a national level in terms of informing future DFG allocations, and for your kind of local BCF teams or your kind of local finance officers, showing them that continued investment in DFG is a good thing to do for your local area. I mean, I suppose kind of Philip, in terms of the kind of the cost benefit bit of it, does it kind of differentiate between kind of social care and health, or is it more kind of a general kind of cost benefit to the public sector? How does that bit of it manifest itself at the end?
We're gathering a range of health and social care costs, and the health economists are breaking that down in terms of unit costs. So we will be splitting it across cost to health and the cost to social care and the costs to private family carers as well. Every activity is assigned a cost, and we've got two professors of health economics as part of our team, so there will be a full economic evaluation and a separate economic evaluation that's published as part of this.
Great, thank you. And in response to Betty, yeah, I think you would give, there'd obviously be a lot more information about the process that you would discuss with anybody who's looking to take part. And kind of Russell was asking about the level access shower installation time. So I think you work with the local authorities to devise a way that it can be done quicker for a group of people. So you don't fit in the shower trays yourself.
No, we don't, but we're getting lots of requests for that, and we are considering diversifying, but we haven't got there yet.
So there'll be a new level access shower contractor coming out of university at some point. Great. Well, thank you all for your input today. Hopefully, if you've been listening, you're now enthused and interested in the project. Please do contact one of those email addresses. I will put them back on screen one last time, just so you can note those down. But as I say, if you get in touch with us foundations, if you can't remember them afterwards, then we'll pass on all those details.